population transfer, cultural assimilation, and near total destruction of the natural environment of southern Mongolia. As a result of large-scale Chinese population transfer, today the Mongols constitute only 18% of the total population in the region. The natural grasslands where the Mongols maintained their nomadic way of life for thousands of years have been destroyed by unsound mining operations and the non-sustainable farming practices of millions of Chinese immigrants. In order to cover up the ecological destruction and to justify their population transfer policy, the Chinese authorities have started blaming on the indigenous Mongolian herders, claiming that the ecological degradation is caused by the indigenous Mongolian primitive and backward nomadic way of life, despite the fact that the true cause of the ecological destruction of my homeland is the non-sustainable farming practice of 12 million Chinese peasants who are cultivating my land every spring. Madam Chair, Mongolian people have maintained their traditional nomadic way of life for thousands of years in a perfect harmony with the natural environment. Now, under the Chinese government's so-called ecological migration and livestock grazing prohibition laws, grazing livestock on grassland is considered as an illegal act. The Chinese government recently set up a specific task force called Livestock Prohibition Team that has authorized the right to confiscate Mongolian herders' livestock grazing on grassland and given the right to arrest, detain, torture the livestock herders and issue tickets to livestock herders. Herds of livestock are confiscated and hundreds of herders have been detained and beaten up by the task force personnel on daily basis for grazing their livestock on their grazing lands. In addition to these egregious policies, mining, or the so-called opening up, is another problem threatening our community and our natural environment. Hundreds of Chinese and foreign mining companies are rushing into our ancestral land and opening up mines under the Chinese policies of so-called Western development and Western energy to East. Madam Chair, China has recently declared that Inner Mongolia, with its rich oil, gas, coal, and other minerals, has become the energy base of China. Behind this arrogant statement, what is going on is that the indigenous Mongolian people have been displaced from their ancestral land without free, prior, and informed consent. Their sacred places have been opened up, and toxic industrial wastes have been dumped on their grazing lands. Madam Chair, China has signed the United Nations Declaration on Rights of Indigenous Peoples without considering her 55 indigenous peoples as indigenous. As you all know, China is not a country of rule of law, and the government of China has continually ignored its citizens' basic human rights and fundamental freedoms that are guaranteed by both the Chinese constitutions and the Universal Human Rights Declaration. Given these circumstances, my question to the Permanent Forum is, what mechanism does the Permanent Forum have to ensure that China respects and protects the rights of indigenous peoples within her borders? Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank Mr. Togochog for his remarks, and please extend that to him in his language. The government of China would like to make a remark. That is their right to reply at the end of the session. Thank you very much. We will continue with our speakers list, and the next speaker on the list is Madam Chochi Carino.
Do you have a copy?
Do you have a copy?
Copy? I have.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I wish to draw the attention of the UN Permanent Forum to the plight of